Ames leaned close, his voice a husky whisper. "Sophie, I never pushed you. Not when I saw you in that black dress at the funeral, a vision of grief and grace. Not when you cried and I wanted to be the one to wipe your tears, to hold you until the pain eased. And definitely not now. I never meant to cross that line, but grief drove me to do things I never thought possible, a reckless plunge into a forbidden abyss. First, a heartfelt thank you to my incredible supporters. Your encouragement lets me craft the most gripping emotional stories. This one is personal, raw, and a mistake I can never undo, a wound that bleeds with every memory. The day I arrived at Claire's house, I was a shadow of myself, a ghost haunted by loss. My husband Ethan had been gone 3 weeks, killed in a car accident that left me a widow. At 33, my world shattered into jagged pieces. The funeral was a blur, condolences cutting like knives, each word a reminder of my solitude. My empty apartment was a prison of memories, echoing with his laughter now silenced. So when Claire, my sister, insisted I stay with her and James for a while, I agreed, maybe too quickly, desperate for refuge from my pain. Claire, the responsible one, always had her life together, a beacon of stability in my storm. Her home was warm, comforting, scented with vanilla, and safety a haven from my grief. James, her husband, was different. I'd met him before at family dinners, holidays, but seeing him in his own space, so at ease, so commanding, it was like noticing him for the first time. Tall, broad-shouldered, with hands that looked like they could fix anything or break everything. His smile was disarming, his voice a deep, soothing rumble like a melody I couldn't ignore. When he hugged me that first night, I felt something I hadn't in weeks, warmth, a spark that flickered in my darkened heart. "Your family, Sophie. Stay as long as you need," he whispered into my hair, his breath a dangerous comfort. In that moment, I wasn't just trapped by grief, but by something far more perilous, a pull I couldn't resist. Days passed in a haze. Claire went to work, leaving James and me alone, a quiet house charged with unspoken tension. At first, it was innocent morning coffee, small talk, shared silences that felt too intimate. Then the touches began. His hand on my shoulder as he passed by, lingering just a moment too long. His fingers brushing mine when he handed me a glass of wine, a jolt that woke something inside me. Once I tripped on the stairs and he caught me, holding me close, his body pressed against mine longer than necessary, a moment that stole my breath. "You okay?" His warm breath grazed my ear, igniting a fire I couldn't quench. I wasn't okay because every time he looked at me, I felt it, a slow magnetic pull, a current dragging me under. The worst part, I wanted it, craved it like air after drowning in sorrow. One night, after too much wine, we found ourselves on the porch, the sultry summer air wrapping around us, thick with possibility. "You're beautiful," Sophie, James said suddenly, his voice rough like a confession torn from his soul. As his fingers traced my jaw, all I could think was, I need this, just once. Grief makes you reckless. Desire makes you foolish. That night, I was both a woman unmoored, chasing a fleeting escape. The air between James and me had been charged for days, a storm waiting to break. Every glance, every accidental brush of skin was a slow burn starting deep in my core and spreading until I couldn't ignore it, a fire that consumed my reason. Claire had gone to bed early, citing a headache, leaving us alone in a house that felt too small. James poured us another glass of wine, his fingers lingering on mine as he handed me the glass, a touch that sent shivers down my spine. "You've been through hell," he said, voice low, heavy with empathy and something darker. "You deserve to feel good again." I should have caught his meaning, but I was too lost in his gaze. His eyes darkened as they met mine, his thumb grazing the rim of his glass like he was imagining it gliding over my skin, a silent promise that set my pulse racing. We moved to the living room, the fireplace casting flickering shadows across his face, turning him into a figure of both comfort and danger. He sat closer than necessary, our knees touching a contact that felt like a spark. Neither of us moved away. "You're not just saying that because you pity me, are you?" I asked, half joking, half fearing his answer, my heart teetering on the edge. "Sophie," he whispered, voice husky, "I never pushed you. Not when I saw you in that black dress at the funeral. Not when you cried and I wanted to wipe your tears. And definitely not now." My breath quickened. This was wrong. So wrong, a betrayal of everything sacred. But when his hand slid up my thigh, I didn't stop. Him couldn't stop him. "Tell me to back off." He murmured, his lips dangerously close to my ear, his breath a temptation I couldn't resist. "Say it, and I will." I didn't. Instead, I turned to face him, our mouths inches apart, the air between us crackling with need. His breath was warm, tasting of red wine and something darker, hungrier. Then his lips met mine, a collision of desperation and longing. It wasn't gentle, it was urgent, like he'd been holding back for weeks and finally broke a dam, giving way to a flood. His hands tangled in my hair, pulling me closer, and I melted into him, surrendering to the fire within. Guilt whispered in my mind, but it was drowned by the raw need coursing through me, a need I hadn't felt in months. I hadn't been touched, hadn't felt wanted. And James, he wanted me, craved me with a ferocity that consumed us both. His mouth moved to my neck, teeth grazing my skin as his hand slipped under my shirt, each touch igniting a new flame. "You don't know how long I've thought about this." He growled, his voice a low rumble that shook me to my core. I should have pushed him away, remembered Claire sleeping upstairs, but my body betrayed me. As his fingers brushed the strap of my bra, all I could do was arch into his touch, a silent plea for more. "We can't," I gasped, even as my hands fumbled with his shirt buttons, torn between duty and desire. "We already are," he replied, pulling me into his lap, sealing our fate with his embrace. And just like that, there was no turning back, a line crossed that could never be uncrossed. The heart is a traitor. It led me straight into the flames, even as my conscience screamed to run a battle I was destined to lose. The days after that first kiss were a blur of stolen moments, each one a step deeper into our secret world. Claire bustled around the house, oblivious to the current flowing between her husband and me, a betrayal hidden in plain sight. Every glance, every fleeting touch from James carried new meaning, a secret language only we understood, a code of longing and guilt. I told myself it was just grief, the hollow ache in my chest, craving any warmth, but I knew better. When James's hand lingered on my back in the hallway, or when I caught him watching me with dark, hungry eyes, it was more than that, a connection that both thrilled and terrified me. It all came to a head on a rainy Thursday, the world outside cloaked in a gray shroud. Claire was working the night shift, leaving us in a cocoon of our own making. The rain pattered against the windows, sealing us in our private world. We sat in the living room, the distance between us on the couch both too vast and not enough a space charged with unspoken truths. "We should talk about what happened." I started twisting my wedding ring, its weight a reminder of my vows. James set down his drink and turned to me, his gaze piercing through my defenses. "What do you want to say that we can't?" He leaned closer, his knee brushing mine, a touch that set my heart racing. "That there's nothing here that you don't feel it too." His words sent a shiver through me because he was right. I felt it, the attraction, the connection, the exquisite, terrible thrill of being wanted again, a lifeline in my sea of grief. When his hand touched my cheek, I didn't pull away, couldn't pull away. When he leaned in, I met him halfway, surrendering to the inevitable. This kiss wasn't like the tentative first, it was deeper, more desperate, like we were both trying to drown in each other, a plunge into oblivion. His hands tangled in my hair as mine gripped his shirt, pulling him closer until I felt his heartbeat against my chest, a rhythm that matched my own. We broke apart, gasping. "We should stop," I whispered, even as my body leaned toward him, a traitor to my own words. "Do you want to?" His thumb brushed my lower lip, a touch that unraveled me. I hesitated too long. That was all the answer he needed, a silent consent that sealed our path. In one fluid motion, he stood, pulling me with him, his strength a promise and a threat. Our mouths crashed together as he backed me toward the hallway, his hands roaming my body with a possessiveness that should have scared me, but only made me burn hotter, a fire I couldn't extinguish. A part of my mind screamed this was wrong, that we were betraying Claire in the worst way, but the louder part, the part that had been cold and lonely too long, begged for more. When my back hit the wall outside the guest room, James's mouth left mine to trail down my neck, each kiss a brand on my soul. "Tell me you don't want this," he murmured against my skin, a challenge I couldn't meet. I opened my mouth to end it, to stop this before it went too far. Instead, I gasped as his hands found my waist, and all that came out was his name, a surrender I couldn't take back. Some choices haunt you forever. That night, I made a decision that would define me. The guest room door slammed shut behind us, sealing our fate, a barrier between us and the world we were betraying. Moonlight filtered through the curtains, casting silver streaks across James's face as he looked down at me with an intensity that stole my breath, his eyes a mirror to my own longing. His fingers grazed the straps of my tank top so slow I felt every thread give way under his touch, a deliberate act of unraveling. "We should," I choked out as he wrapped an arm around my waist, my voice a fragile plea. "Should what?" His lips brushed my earlobe, a whisper that shattered my resolve. "Stop. Think. Pretend this isn't the most alive we've both felt in months." The truth in his words pierced my last defenses, a blade that cut through my guilt. When his mouth found mine again, I stopped fighting, surrendering to the tide. The bed hit the back of my knees as we stumbled backward, a tangle of hungry hands and whispered confessions, a dance of desire and despair. Then came the sound of the front door, a jolt that froze us in place. Claire's voice called out, "Sophie, I forgot." The bedroom door swung open. Time stopped, the world collapsing in a single moment. My sister stood silhouetted in the doorway, her overnight bag slipping from her hand, her face a mask of betrayal. The pain in her eyes cut deeper than any knife, a wound I'd inflicted. Claire, James stepped forward, his voice a futile plea. "Don't." She backed away, voice breaking. "Don't." The front door slammed, echoing like a gunshot through the house, a sound that shattered my world. 3 months later, divorce papers arrived in the mail today. Claire's signature was there, neat and final. Unlike the trembling letters in the apology note she returned unopened, a rejection that stung deeper than words. I pressed the envelope to my chest, staring at the empty house James left behind when he moved to Chicago, a void as vast as my regret. The distance between us now is more than miles, an unbridgeable chasm. Some fires burn too hot, leaving nothing but ashes, a truth carved into my soul. Some mistakes don't just haunt you, They burrow into your bones and live there, a permanent mark of my betrayal. 6 months later, Claire's voicemail played the third time, her voice hoarse and unfamiliar. A ghost from a life I'd lost. Mom's in the hospital. Nothing serious, but she's asking for you. Room 412. I stared at my reflection in the greasy diner window, dark circles under my eyes, lips chapped from biting back words I'd never get to say, a face worn by guilt. The coffee in front of me had gone cold like the hope I'd once held. James texted me once, 2 weeks after he left. I told her it was all my fault. She'll never forgive me, but maybe she'll forgive you. He was wrong. A naive hope that crumbled under reality. St. Mary's Hospital. The elevator doors opened with a beep, the hum of machines filling the air, a sterile reminder of life's fragility. Room 412's door loomed. Claire sat by Mom's bed, blonde hair in a messy bun. Scrubs wrinkled her exhaustion, a mirror to my own. She didn't look up as I entered, her silence louder than any accusation. Mom reached for me, trembling. "Sophie, sweetheart." I choked back a sob, grasping her fingers, her warmth a lifeline. Claire's chair scraped back. "I'll get coffee," she muttered, brushing past without meeting my eyes, her absence a knife in my heart. The door closed. Mom sighed. "She's not ready. I know. Are you?" Her sharp gaze pinned me, seeing through my facade. Live with it. The truth choked me. I dreamed of it every night. Claire's face at the door, James's hands cold on my skin, a nightmare that replayed my shame. The slam of the door. James's expression when he realized what we'd done, a moment that broke us all. Mom squeezed my hand. "Good," she said softly. "You should feel it. That's how you know you're still human." Her words a balm and a burden. Outside, Claire stood by her car, arms crossed against the autumn wind, a figure of strength and sorrow. I forced my feet toward her. "I'm sorry," stuck in my throat, too small, too late, a whisper against a hurricane. Instead, I held out an envelope. "Your divorce papers," she said flatly. "I signed them weeks ago." "No," I swallowed hard. "The lake house deed. It's yours now." Her breath hitched. We'd inherited it together after Dad died, a shared legacy now tainted. "I can't keep it," she whispered. "You can." The wind stole my next words, but she heard them. "I've heard enough." For the first time in months, she looked at me, really looked, her eyes searching mine. Her hazel eyes, like mine, burned with something worse than regret, pity, a mirror to my own brokenness. "Did you love him?" she asked, a question that cut to my core. The truth spilled out. I loved not being alone, a confession that laid me bare. She nodded slowly, taking the envelope, a gesture heavy with finality. "I'll visit Mom tomorrow. You should go today." Not forgiveness, but a thread, a fragile hope in the ruins. That night, the dream came again. Claire's face at the door, James's hands cold on my skin. This time, I woke before the door slammed, a small mercy. My empty apartment echoed a tomb of my own making. I opened my laptop and began typing, "Dear Claire, my beloved sister. I'm so sorry," a letter that might never be read, but one I had to write.